Let's see how still I can hold this. Beautiful. Hello, my name is Grace. It's backwards. I don't know if I can make that not backwards for the people. Yeah, I think for the people at home, it's probably going to be fine. For the people here, it's probably going to be backwards. But for those who are interested, these are also here in person, so you can come and look at them afterwards, so you can perhaps read it not backwards. My name is Grace. I am one of the members of the Fungi Scientific Committee, and our goal is really to augment what we do in the Minnesota Mycological Society by looking at the scientific side of fungal ID for the purposes of research for future use of the mushrooms that we find. So documenting what mushrooms we have in Minnesota and how can those contribute to our broader understanding of fungi in North America, because a lot of fungi in North America, we don't really know what they are. We've been calling them European names, we've been calling them other things, but now that we have more accessible DNA technology, we're finding out that a lot of the things that we thought were true about the fungi, and specifically the mushrooms in North America, are actually not true. If you want to be a person who discovers a new species, go into mycology taxonomy. You can find them pretty easily. So the idea behind what I want to tell you today is, if you're in, one of the things that we're doing in the Fungi Committee is saying, how can we help people know when they find an interesting mushroom or a mushroom that might not have been documented before? Because often one of the things that I've experienced is I go into the woods and I see tons of tiny little brown mushrooms and I say, maybe this is interesting, but I don't know. I don't know what mushroom that is. So trying to find ways that people who might be newer to mushroom ID or things like that can then have enough information to get started. Oh, put down. Okay, there we go. So what I worked on creating was some sheets that you can then use to say, these are some fungi that we know exist in Minnesota that are rare or we don't have enough information. This was inspired by the Fungal Diversity Survey. It's a nonprofit that has some rare fungi challenges. They don't have a Midwest one yet. So getting some of those things so that you can then go into the field and say, what information do I need to know? Or does someone else need to know to be able to then identify these mushrooms? Or I say, oh, I saw a picture of that mushroom before and I thought, I've never seen a mushroom like that. Is this interesting? Oftentimes, who here, like CJ was talking about, has received a mushroom photo from a relative that's only the top of the mushroom, or that only has one small picture, and then you don't know enough information to be able to tell them anything of note. So a lot of times that starts by the person who's finding the mushroom. So if you find a mushroom and you say, hey, I've never seen anything else like this before, what information do you need to gather to then take that and use it for your own purposes of ID, or to then talk to people in the fungi group or other experts to have enough information that people don't just say, well, I would need all of these pieces of information that you then don't have. So, for example, if you were to head into the woods, and this happened to me recently, actually, I was at a foray with the Minnesota Mycological Society in William O'Brien. We were walking in the woods, and I saw a very cool yellow mushroom. And then someone showed it to me. I was like, wait, that yellow mushroom has gills that don't attach to the stem, called free gills. I said, that looks like a mushroom that I've seen before when I made this piece of paper, which is this Pluteus mammillatus. It's a mushroom that is the only Pluteus, so the only of this genus in Minnesota, that has a ring on its stipe. Most of the time, if you're seeing a ring on the stipe and free gills, probably an amanita. But this mushroom, pretty distinctive. It's got this really bright yellow cap. It's growing from dead wood. It's got these gills that don't attach to the stipe that turn pink over time. The mushroom that I found did also start turning this color of pink, which is quite impressive. And so I said, okay, I found this mushroom and I think this mushroom is a rare mushroom. So when I found that mushroom with the group of people that were around, I said, hold up, I'm gonna need to stop for a second. I need to make some more notes. So the things that I did, this is, if you find something, what do you do when you're in the field? Some of it are the things that you probably want to do with any mushroom that you find. You're going to take photos of that mushroom so that you can post it on iNaturalist or Mushroom Observer or somewhere else so you can get more opinions on the mushroom and document that you found it. So you want to make sure that you're taking photos of that mushroom in its habitat, Where are you finding it? What's around? If you're good at tree ID and can write down some trees, write down what trees you're seeing. If you don't know tree ID, take some pictures of what's around so that you can show them to people. You also want to make sure you have enough photos of the mushroom itself. So the top, the side, the bottom, any of those notable features like bruising or staining, or any, like if it's got a bulb on the bottom, those features that you need for mushroom ID, those are great things to take a photo of and then make notes of the things that you might not be able to capture in photos. So if it has a smell or if it has a taste or things like that, taking those notes in the field means that then when you go home or when you're back at an ID table, oftentimes some of those features are already disappearing or they're gone, or you start looking in books and you say, oh, did it have these like did it have this smell? I didn't smell it right away and now I don't smell it. It's hard to be confident if you don't note that immediately or if you don't take some time to slow down and notice. I know sometimes I get in the field and I say, oh, it's so exciting. I'm seeing all of these mushrooms. I see this mushroom and then over there's that mushroom. And then there are too many things and I lose track of what I found. So taking some time and making notes and taking photos means that you're able to record those things. So then when someone asks you a question like, oh, was that mushroom growing in dead wood? If you don't remember, you can look back at your photos or look back at your notes, and then you have more confidence in terms of what you found. When you're making the collection, you do want to collect the full thing, so like dig it out a little bit and make sure that you have enough. People sometimes think you need a lot of a mushroom for DNA sequencing. You really don't. You need an itty bitty tiny bit, and then they'll probably make it even smaller for the DNA sequencing purposes. But when you find and collect that specimen, you can take a little bit of it. If you're trying to submit it to a more formal like collection of mushrooms, like the Bell Fungaria, that is something that you do want a few more. But that is also something that if you don't know the first time, maybe you won't collect enough, and then you'll learn that for the next time. So after you've made all your collections, you then get home and you say, okay, what happens next? What do I do with all this information that I have? That's not the right paper. It's this other one that says, I found something, now what? At home. So once you get home, like you want to do if you're at a Minnesota Mycological Society foray, if you're posting it on iNaturalist, you can then say, okay, I made all these notes, I took all these photos, now I can compile that into one spot. I can post it. I find iNaturalist to be the easiest to use, but Mushroom Observer also has more experts that identify on there than iNaturalist. And then the Fungi group also has a Facebook group where you can post more of these photos. So access some of the experts in Minnesota. So have more tangible access to some of the Fungi group members as well as other experts in Minnesota. So making a post online with all of that information to record it for the future. And then something that is often super helpful. Troy, do you have a field slip with you?
Sure.
I do not have one on me. But having a field slip is like a little piece of paper that can help you record notes in the field. And then there's a number on that that then will carry through with your mushroom. If it's going to be DNA sequenced, if it's going to go into a fungaria, that slip of paper can follow through and there are numbers to make sure that that mushroom stick or that you know which mushroom it is. Oftentimes, if you put a bunch of mushrooms in the dehydrator and then take them out, they don't look like what they used to in the photos. So it's easy to get them mixed up. If you have those slips of paper with them, they act as a really great size comparison. So you don't need to use like your hand, which can sometimes not be it's not an objective source of measure of how big a mushroom is. But that is something that you can use to track your mushroom throughout this. So you can fill out your field slip, use that and post that on iNaturalist and make sure that you've got the numbers from the field slip in your post and then the number of the iNaturalist post in the field slip, so that if you're sending that mushroom off or a piece of that mushroom off, it can then, the people who are going to look at that can find your iNaturalist post with all of your lovely photos and observations. You can then process those mushrooms, aka dehydrate them, or if you don't have a dehydrator, contact one of the folks in the Fungi group, or if you're at an MMS foray, the foray leader, to be able to say, hey, I found this mushroom. I think it's interesting. I'm not sure, like, do you think it's interesting? Do you want this mushroom? And then be able to get that mushroom to someone. If you are dehydrating, it is important that you want to dehydrate it at a pretty low setting. So like 95 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit, because then the DNA will be preserved. If you go hotter than that, a lot of times the DNA will start to break down. So if you're going to try and DNA sequence after that, people will take a sample, but then the DNA that they get back doesn't actually give them enough to be able to confidently say what mushroom it is. And then here is this field slip that I mentioned. So you can see this data slip has some basic information about where you find the mushroom. So like when you found it, what state, probably going to be Minnesota, but maybe Wisconsin or something else. And then it's got some little prompts for like what type of, or like what else might you know about that mushroom in the field? Did you take photos of it? What trees were nearby? How many were growing there? What was it growing in? And some spots for information here. You don't need to fill out all of the spots on this data slip in the field. It can be great if you want to take the time to make some of those notes. You can write down things, and often it's nice because if there are other things that won't fit on there, you can take some notes on the back too. But in the field, you take a photo with this, so then this number stays with your mushroom and can go in your iNaturalist post or wherever else you're posting it. And then down here, they've got a spot for you to write the number of your post to then be able to track that throughout so people can find it. What I will often do is write down some basic information and some notes that have to happen in the field. And then when I come back to my house, when I'm going to make the iNaturalist post, I'll fill out some of the like county information or any other notes of like, if I did a spore print, what spore color it was, or that sort of thing. So you can go back and edit those. You can add more things to your observation, but having field slips, if you want to do scientific ID, having field slips, which are accessible online for free, you can just print them out and then take them with you. And then if you find something interesting, you've got all the things that you need to be able to do that. I have spent a lot of time talking at you all about these things. Do you all have questions right now? Yes.
So field slips are available online. How do you, the number identification, how is that unique?
Yeah, so this field slip specifically is from an organization called Mycota. Mycota Labs, they're based out of Michigan. So they have field slips that you can see, this is their logo here, but you can see these are from the Continental Mycoblitz of 2025. So that's CM25, and then it's got these numbers. So whoever is generating the field slip will often have a number associated with it. You can also get field slips from the Fungal Diversity Survey that then would have just like a different type of number or ID that then depending on where you're sending it, that would be able to track it. I believe for the Bell Museum, they have their own field slips that you can sort of create your own IDs as you go. So if you're starting and you find a mushroom, you can use like your initials and then start with like 1 point something, or you can create your own system as well. If that feels overwhelming, having things like this where there already are numbers, and then if they need to, you can like cut off this bottom bit if you don't want to put all of this in your dehydrator. There's a spot here that says voucher label for drying. I am sure it is much too small for anyone else to read besides me, who's right next to it. And then this one here says tissue sample. So when they then take that tiny little sample, it's like smaller than a grain of rice, what they need for DNA sequencing. So they'll take that and then put that next to the sample. So throughout the whole process, they know what fungi they're looking at and what information that they have so that we can track that. And then it can be uploaded to some of the open databases so everyone can have access to those DNA sequences. Yeah.
Say we have a field slip available on our website for download.
I do not know if we do at this point. I think we do. Okay. They are also on the MMS website. And hopefully we will also be able to take some of these and some of the like rare fungi sheets that I've got, as well as some of this information, and put it on our website so that if you're off wandering in the woods by yourself, as I'm guessing many of you like to do, you can have some information and have some accessible information to know if I'm interested in participating in scientific ID of mushrooms. These are things that you can do. Yeah. Yeah, typically for DNA sequencing, they want part of the spore-bearing surface. So mostly for DNA sequencing, they only need like around a quarter size of the mushroom at most. But often they want that to be part of whether it's the gills or the spore, like a part of the cap that has some of that on there, because often they will take a sample from the gills or the pores or the teeth. I'm not seeing any other questions right now. If you have more questions, or thoughts. A lot of other things that we do in the Fungi Scientific group, we meet once a month and we'll talk about different mushrooms that we find, or we also sometimes do presentations on different factors or features like conservation of mushroom and conservations of mushrooms. We've got some people who've got microscopes who they sometimes bring in to be able to look at spores under a microscope or look at different features of the gills. I do not have access to a microscope, so that is newer to me, but some of our members do have those microscopes and are able to teach us more about how we can do those things. Yeah.
Do you know anything about through the university? There's a journal club that meets twice a month in this room, like a mycology journal club. Have you heard of that?
I do not know a lot about that. Troy, do you know if we have any connection to a journal club at the U that meets for mycology? I think I've heard of it, but I don't think we do.
They're meeting in this room twice a month.
Cool.
No, we're not part of that, the journal club. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Or they have a speaker.
I haven't gone. They had a meeting today.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. You ask such a good, you bring up such a good thing.
There, you know, I'm looking at it.
Ah, beautiful.
No.
Okay. If there are no other questions right now, feel free to talk. If you're a member of the Fungi group and you're in this room, can you raise your hand? Take a look around, see whose hands are raised. If you have any other questions about our group, what we do, how we contribute to the Minnesota Mycological Society, or anything more about sequencing or sampling, feel free to give any of us a question. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You guys have like a website or something?
Yeah, there is a page on the website of the MMS. Yeah, if you look up like MMS fungi, it comes up. Yeah, scientific committee. Also, Troy is our fearless leader, so we'll answer many a question if you have more specific questions about our operating or some of the history of the group or things like that. Beautiful. I'm not sure who is scheduled to come on next, but thank you all for listening.
David King is here to talk more about the passport program and some pretty exciting new things. Thanks, David.
Yep.
For being here.
So we rolled out the passport program this spring. And we've seen, I think before, we've got, here's the prize for level 1, but just this week, the prize for level 2 came in. They're, I know. Yeah, they're rubber patches with Velcro on them. So you peel off the Velcro, sew the Velcro onto a hat or a backpack, and then you can put the patch on there. I noticed that Troy's backpack already has the fuzzy Velcro on that. He wouldn't have to do any sewing. So get your 24, Troy, and we'll give you one. Yeah, there you go. The passport program is completely free. You don't have to do a single thing. The society bought all the prizes. So now we've spent the money. We want you to get your money's worth on it. 49 of them don't do any good sitting on my desk at home. I want to give these things away to the people that get them. So it's 12 identifications for level 1. The next 12 gets you level 2. Then you have to work kind of hard to get to 48 for the next level and 72 for the last level. The last level is a fuzzy.
A new car.
Yeah, brand new car. Yes, we have had one meetup already this summer. And if we've had several people send me an email when they've got some identifications, and I'll connect you with one of the authenticators, and people I think have been doing it quite a bit online. But if you are having trouble, just let me know and we'll get you lined up with someone. Any questions? I really want to give these away. I want to see these on backpacks at all the forays.
So I'm going to talk about, actually, this label says Boletus pseudosensibilis. It's actually Landmauer pseudosensibilis now is the current name. It's a look-alike bolete that many people will mistake for bicolor boletes. But it has some significant differences. First of all, it's nowhere near as red as a bicolor. Bicolor boletes are just extremely red, very, very cool. They may stain a little bit blue, but not very much. These guys will stain a whole lot blue. Well, that's kind of an older one. Oh, there it's doing it. Initially, it will stain blue, and then that blue staining will turn brown over the course of time. All right, here's a little younger one. See that kind of a blue staining, blue-green staining? And many of the boletes will do this, whether it be in the flesh, or on the pore surface, or on the stipe. But look how greenish blue that is. That will eventually turn brown. Now that's only part of the whole thing. The other part, a couple of the other parts of it, first of all, that these are extremely, extremely common. Very seldom are they attacked by the bolete mold that gets a lot of the other boletes, but once in a while they are also attacked. But one of the other features, and this is just cool about boletes, period, is that, okay, so you notice that a bolete, any boletes, any bolete mushrooms, and we just use that as a general term for boletes, have a tube layer, and then there will be a cap layer or flesh. Notice how blue-green that is. Now that will eventually turn brown. But one of the features, even in an extremely, extremely mature specimen, and this is similar to the bicolor boletes, is that the tube layer and the cap flesh have a unique percentage. Okay, so the tube layer is pretty scant compared to the amount of the cap layer. All right, so it has a very, very thin tube layer compared to a cap layer. One of the other features of boletes in general is you can actually peel the tube layer away from the cap flesh, which is just really, really cool. Almost every one of them will do that. The ash tree boletes don't do that. A couple of other ones don't, but that's another cool feature of it. And, you know, for some boletes that tend to be a little bit bitter tasting, people will remove the tube layer, and that will remove some of the bitterness. But this one is Pseudosensibilis. The jury is still out whether it's actually edible or not. People keep changing their mind about the whole thing, whether it is or not. Regardless, it would require quite a bit of cooking. The Pseudosensibilis generally is considered to be the edible one. There is a Sensibilis that does some other different things about this whole thing. And that one has more caution. The bicolors are generally regarded as really a choice edible. However, some of the collections of bicolor will give you gas, as has been reported to me. And actually, I found that out myself. I just, oh, okay. Well, they were tasty. They were really, really tasty, but, you know, not polite company. So don't eat them before you got to church. Yeah.
What's odd about it? It isn't gas that you get.
No.
Just straight flatulence. You don't feel gas.
No, it's just, yeah. Okay, enough with fart jokes. We won't do that. But anyhow, so this is an extremely, really, really, really cool mushroom, and it's very, very prevalent right now. You can find a lot of these from everywhere, from this side all the way to the others, the little buttons. And that staining is just super cool. That still really hasn't gotten to the browning part, but by the end of the meeting, that dark blue-green will be brown. And some of this other nonsense in here will also be brown. And that the tube layers that I took off of there, they're very green too. And those will be very, very brown. So pseudosensibilis, it's land Maoa right now. But if you go with, most of the books are going to call it Boletus pseudosensibilis. So, yeah, there is no bicolor in it. So, bicolors generally are a little bit earlier in the year. So you're not going to find them. You'll find them at the same time during the crossover between the bicolors and these guys. But the bicolors tend to be a little bit earlier in the year, more in the summertime. Is there any other? Yeah, there's a lot of boletes here, but I don't necessarily want to talk about very many of them. But I will talk about the leatherneck. Yeah, this is really, really a cool one. This is Gyrodon spherosporosus. It's called the leather-veiled bolete, and it's got this weird color covering. This is the only Paragyrodon genus. Okay, I mean only Paragyrodon species too. So it's unique, but its tubes are covered by this leathery veil, and you can peel it away. And when it's moist, it's real slimy. It's nasty. But this also bruises. You see some brownish bruising and stuff like that. This is not considered extremely well-defined tubes. You can see the tubes or the pores. A pore is actually the opening to the tube. So don't get them confused with a polypore, which means many pores. And then this is what the inside of it looks like when you peel that away. Now, this is not one that is very easy to peel. Oh, I guess it peels pretty good. It peels pretty good. The only way I would ever eat one of these, I would peel this tube layer away, get the skin off of it, and by that time, it's like, that's too much work. You know, there's other mushrooms that are out there that would be, and the best I've ever heard about this tasting is it tastes a lot like dirt. So I'm not sure. Okay. Well, okay. But yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, thanks. Okay. Yeah.
And this one about this associations and like what kind of habitat you find it.
Okay, well, so in the case of almost every bolete, everything that's in the bolete classification, almost all of them are mycorrhizal. They're symbiotic with some kind of tree. Many of them are hardwood trees, pseudosensibilis, hardwood trees, oak forest is where I was finding. These also were at the edge of hardwood forests. Often really close to the trail. So you're going to see a whole bunch of these real close to the edge of the trail. And you just see it. It looks like just a little brown mushroom. You know, I mean, you may not even notice it. And then all of a sudden you'll see it in the weeds, and you'll see that, oh, look at that slimy thing on it. And these ones are not too bad because they dried out a little bit. So, but they have symbiotic relationships with the root systems of various hardwood trees, but especially oaks. Oaks are kind of the magical trees down in our neck of the woods. Pines, red pines, white pines, as you go further north. Spruce, fir, muscaria, and some of the other things. Those aren't ones you're going to eat, but still. A number of the really good, or a number of the boletes actually, almost every one of them is symbiotic with some kind of tree. There's only a few of them that actually grow on rotted wood. Mirabilis is one of the ones that I know of that you see in the Pacific Northwest. And it's very striking, very cool looking. But Most of them actually just grow on the ground. All right. Somebody else want to talk? Please. It's very common here, but very rare elsewhere. Yes.
That too, yeah.
Okay.
Christine on Zoom said she saw Leathern Hill bullies in a suburban park. With a lot of oaks, but
Absolutely. And they're extremely.
don't people with recent DNA studies, I don't know if that's true, that people are a little afraid to step out.
They're related, the pack growing. Around the country.
And just because we call them boletes doesn't mean they're actually in a group of families that are boletes. There's just any number of these things that we throw out the word bolete on. You know, there's Suillus and there's Lexinums and there's Tylopolis and a bunch of other ones. And many of them we're finding out actually are not even closely related to each other. In spite of the fact that they all have tubes. So, okay. Thank you.
Pick another edible here. Hericium, and we have 3 different hericium in Minnesota. This one here is Coraloides. It's common on decorticated or debarked hardwood. It's a choice edible. The other 2 we have are slightly different. We have an Helvella and Americana. Both of those are in like Kathy's guidebook, so you could compare this what you have there. But all 3 of them, if you find them in the woods and they're still white, they're just starting to yellow a little bit. If you want to cut those off. Okay. Any questions on this one? No. Well, yes and no. You can find them on, like other trees will have some bark, or the bark is loose and it's somehow gone through the bark. I found them on birch trees that are still alive, and on hardwoods from time to time that are still alive. But in general, this one here, you know, I've found logs that have been laying on the ground with no bark on them. They're damp. They've probably been laying on the ground for 10 years. And say on a 20-foot long log, I'll find 10, 12, 15 of these along the sides of it's growing out of. Usually in wet areas along the side of wetlands or marshes or any low areas with a lot of moisture. August, usually middle August, middle of September for this particular one. You know, the Hypomyces, you know, I find almost up to the start of November, but sometimes those have started to yellow. And when they yellow, you'll have to taste them to see if they're still palatable. Sometimes they get a little bitter, so you might not want to eat those. Yes. Some people use them for all 3, and others just call the lion's mane the one that you find in the grocery stores and whatnot, and that's Hericium aranacea. Fine for now. That's how I pronounce it. Sure.
Kind of fine, mostly. Yeah.
They'll make a lifeline.
Yeah.
I'm pretty simple with my cooking. A lot of stuff is, I could do real simple. I only saute them in a skillet, cut them into, you know, thin enough sections, you know, half inch, 3/4 of an inch. Just do a short, quick, get the pan hot. I don't know, I hate to say three, but if it's actually starting to get too crispy or something, going too far, it's forward. I guess a lot of it's just eyeball. Okay.
Yeah. I know that Hawaii can be a little bit.
That particular one was growing on, down Maple, it did not have any bark after it, was pretty soft. But I found them on down Maple, wet bark. And we found them on. A lot of maple dominant forest and not a lot of other mushrooms. Especially,
You had a question?
all that questions in a minute. And I just wanted to comment that a lot of people think about crab. And I think it's out. I mean, I think if you prepare it kind of similar way, you can talk about it, but all oil and butter. Very minimal seasoning, you know, a little bit of garlic or something, and one of the times, so you can bring out the crabby, like the butter. It really does taste like a crab, and you got any number of stuff.
That are growing on trees. I would say, maybe when you're new, because everything was so much new. No, the texture, everything about it, it's a polyflower, often inverted, or there's layers of them on the tree that are. I don't think you use it, but maybe. I mean, I always go to a field guide.
Yeah, this is the coral. This is
That common name, even throwing the name coral in there isn't good, except for it's coral life. I don't know what sort of coral life, but it's not.
I mean, like lion, it has big.
Yeah.
The forays or the other one.
Bear's head tooth is another common name.
They have teeth, but not coral doesn't. No, coral doesn't have. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna move over there because the Wi-Fi is bad.
Probably the whole genus, have beneficial and neurological effects. I guess the jury is still out, but they're testing. Get them to.
Yeah, it's the Wi-Fi. It's not showing up the way it should be. Very switch up.
So the glacier is all clean, there's no rock, and trees, and these, will become dry, it's not like. The sunlight is dry, or when there's a lot here is very okay, it's October. It's still very, shell, blowing from the decayed wood, and stuff that's fine. And see what we find that almost. So, we're doing that, pretty hard. Right now, trying to leave that, trees inside, so the nature side and some protected areas in normal wood. And, you know, I do out there, I heard that not open that.
Probably under view. Mhm.
This young lady actually has a bicoat. So anybody wants to come back, look at, see. the difference.
I'm going to spotlight this.
Figure out.
How do I unspotlight Heather? And spotlight. There we go. All right. Not the, thank you. Not the greatest, but.
All right, hi, I'm Alex, doing the educator and training thing. So I'm gonna present a mushroom that I found last week, Haria chromapes. This is a bucket list mushroom for me. I've never seen it in the metro area. You'll see it has like a nice pretty pink cap, which is kind of faded with age. The pore surface, I would say it looks a lot like a Talopolis. I brought I think this is Talopolis phallius, the bitter bolete. You can see the pore surface is kind of similar. So if you didn't know what this was, like if I didn't, I'd probably think this is a bitter bolete of some sort. But if you look closer, and I doubt you can see it on the camera, there are tiny scabers on the stalk, similar to what you would find on a scaber stalk or like Cynum species.
Could you repeat its name?
Yes, it's Haria chromapes.
Things backwards.
Yeah, Haria chromapes.
That means yellow flame. Chromapes means yellow flame.
So yeah, that's another identifying feature at the very bottom. It probably doesn't show up the best here, but you'll see it's very yellow. Kind of looks like maybe like turmeric or something. So I would say altogether, these are all crucial identifying features: the color of the cap, how the pore surface looks, the minute scabers, and then probably the biggest tell is the chrome. But I think this is a good example of why it's so important to like excavate the entire mushroom, because if you cut it off from like here, you might miss the bottom part. It is a good edible. I tried it this morning for the first time and I thought it was really tasty. Maybe not quite as much flavor as like a king bolete, but I would probably compare it to like maybe a chestnut bolete or maybe something a little more mild. This was found mostly hardwoods. I would say probably associating with red oak. I actually found this in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. There is a lot of red pine, maple, aspen. I would say the forest was similar to what you'd maybe find on the North Shore, northeastern Minnesota. So that might play into why you don't typically see these in the metro area. I don't know if anyone's found them, but I looked on iNaturalist and it looks like typically it's like northeastern Minnesota, north of like Brainerd or Cloquet, that you'll probably start finding these. Yeah, it is really tasty. The texture is good too if you've picked scaber stalks. Like usually if they're not too old, the cap is pretty firm and the stem is as well. But yeah, this is a really cool mushroom that I found. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
They do look good. I mean, Minnesota, I would say very, the place that I did find it there. Last year. I did some 9 inches.
I find them north, I think, I find them Haji, quite a few.
I've heard they associate with conifers too, but I think this was associating with hardwoods.
It's minor.
Right, I'm going to share a Rusula or Russula or Russula. We had that lecture the other day or the other month by Tavis Lynch. And it was a little over the top for me. There was a lot of them. I know when I'm in the woods and I see a lot of like, there's the tans, the reds, different color reds. Some have a little bit on the stalk. This one, unfortunately, sometimes people call them brittle gills. And they also have brittle stems. So this one, unfortunately, just on the trip here, broken half. But you can see if you look really close, the stems kind of look like chalk and they kind of feel like chalk. This one has a few bug holes, so it's a little squishy, but it's still really crumbly and firm. Super, super white. The gills are white. The stem is white. The stem doesn't have a bulb like an amanita or a skirt or a ring. They're just really, I mean, I guess just kind of classic mushroom shaped. This one is the green quilted russula, and it's a little mottled. Let's see, I'll try to get the other piece that broke off. But you can see it's got like this greenish mottled texture. And I would say this is the only one I confidently can identify just by picking it and seeing into the woods. And I feel like it's one of my favorite edibles. I never find more than one or two. I just never see huge groups of them like you see other russulas. So it feels like a really special mushroom to me, just based on how infrequently I find it. But it also does just have all of those really classic russula features. So it's one of my favorites of.
Especially gold leaf. And
So he's gonna talk about actually doing a test on the only deadly mushrooms that we have here right now. These are part of the destroying angel complex, and I don't think they're all destroying angels, so we're gonna try to decide whether they are.
yeah, unfortunately, the only one I had that didn't turn to mush is pretty dirty. But a great way to tell if it is one of the super deadly ones is to put potassium hydroxide on the cap. And if it is, it will turn yellow. Here you can just see.
Okay.
And if anybody needs like test kits, they can contact me. And I'll just make you one. Let's see, how can I get this in front of the camera though?
Well, I'll pick it up and show.
Okay, I don't want it to trip on anything because this is really. Yeah. Here, see
I'll
if you
pick up
can.
the thing.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So I put a little bit. It kind of dried out, so it's not turning yellow real fast, but
But there is some yellowing that's happening where he dripped it on.
now a couple weeks ago I was finding the what is this? Leucothides or whatever. And they look exactly the same. They even have the white skirt. And they don't have the sac-like base though. It's always important to dig and get the whole mushroom for an ID. These destroying angels, they will have a big sac-like vulva buried up to 2 inches underground. And you need to get that, to tell them apart. Hydroxide?
KOH.
Yeah, it's lye. It's kind of dangerous, very alkaline.
Very slightly yellowing, but
Yeah.
if it was really, really fresh.
If it was fresh, it would flash
Right.
yellow.
Right. So
I have a video, but it's on my phone.
So let's
Okay, we're gonna
try
try
this one.
He doesn't think that this
No,
is a
see, this
destroying
one
angel.
has a much larger veil and a bigger bulb. And I think that this is part of the clade that's called Magnivalarius, and it actually has another name for it now. But
Yeah,
they're still all deadly.
yeah, the stipe is a little bit thicker
Yeah.
on that one than a Hypoxylon, which is the local. Yeah,
And what this one will do is, if I'm correct, is it will cause actually
that might not be fresh enough to.
yeah. It will cause the cap to actually, sort of like when you put a solvent on styrofoam.
Changes texture.
Yeah, where you'll actually see something. Try that again.
All right. Yeah, if we had fresher specimens.
Yeah, all of these were actually gathered several days ago, so, oh, there it is. All right, so in this particular,
Up.
I am
There it is.
trying. So right over here where he put that on there,
you kind of see a weird texture. That's where his droplets of KOH went on there, and yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, it's suppressing the cap somewhat. So that would say it's not a destroying angel, but it's still part of the deadly clade. So it's not a Bisporigera, it's one of the other ones. And then this little guy is a little fresher than the other ones. So let's see what the heck this one is. Yeah, see, now this
Okay.
one's got a really pointed root or bulb to it, but there's the bulb. That's the ova it came out of. Not much of a ring left, but then again, they will kind of
Yeah,
form back down on it.
the
So
Bisporigera, sometimes the skirt is missing, but especially if it's rained a lot. But usually it flares out, unlike the one I brought in. And it's
get that piece of brown.
it's tw-
Okay, so that's what it looks like ahead of time, and we're gonna put some stuff on it.
Mhm.
Does KOH react to the amatoxins or?
No.
No.
No, it's not
Ah.
amatoxin.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the yellowing. Look at the yellowing. So this is a Bisporigera.
Yeah,
It's not the amatoxin.
no, it's something else.
It's some other thing in it, because this other one that didn't do that has amatoxin.
And actually there's other
And just as
genus
much, so, yeah,
mushrooms that have amatoxins.
like
Maybe.
deadly Gallerina, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
But look how yellow that is.
Yeah.
Yep. So this one
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and so this
I'm pretty
other
sure that
tiny
one
one
has-
is as well.
Yeah, it didn't.
Yeah, it didn't flash as much, but that's more of a typical flash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very yellow.
Yeah.
Almost
Cool.
full.
So chemicals can be helpful in the field. But then again, pretty much when you see this, deadly anyhow, okay?
White cap, white gills.
Yes.
White
No speckles on the top at all, but you see, there's actually some more of that depression that's starting to happen in that cap.
and a white bulbous space.
Big white
Bulbous.
bulbous space. So if you just cut them off in the field, you don't see that bulbous space, and you may do
Need to
something
dig.
really bad. And there was actually a story that just occurred that they featured on the national news of somebody who used an online app. He took a picture of an Amanita egg right up close, posted that, and said, "What is it?" Came back and said, "It's a giant puffball." Well, it wasn't a giant anything. If they would have had something for perspective, they could have told that it wasn't large enough to be that, because these all come out of a basal egg. And that can be very egg shaped, yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, I
So
give
cool.
you one.
So cool.
I found this mushroom in Kinnickinnick State Park in Wisconsin. And I've seen lots of amanitas before, and I think this is an amanita, but I've never seen one like this. The deal is it's like a lot shorter and fatter than any I've seen. Are you guys all seeing this and hearing this? So I don't know what the heck what the heck it is. Here, I'll show you some more pictures. That's from the top. Now this, I had dug it out of the ground, so everything with, it had a long stipe underground. And there's my knife. It's really fat and squat, and the above ground part that's not dirty there, you can see it's almost as wide as it is at the top. The cap is almost as wide as it is tall, and the stipe at the widest point where it met the ground was like 1.5 inches wide. I've just never seen an amanita like that. So I'm wondering if
Saying that it's
anybody
a
has.
jeweled amanita.
What did you say?
Olena says it's a jeweled amanita.
Jeweled amanita?
Yes.
Yeah, Troy was saying it's in the Lepidella section.
Yes.
Yep. Woo, look at all that.
Yeah, that was all covered up at first, but then eventually I had it sitting like in a glass, and the cap got so heavy it like tipped over, and then it exposed all of that, because before it was all covered up. So
Very cool. Did it leave residue all over your hands?
yeah, well, I mean, you can see it's on the log and everything.
Yep.
It's not like bleach or chlorine.
Yeah. He said,
Yeah,
did
I've
it-
never
Oh,
seen one that I mean, it was meaty.
Did it smell like bleach or chlorine?
Well, my nose hasn't been working well lately, so I can't really say.
Awesome. Very, very cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Jane.
Today's spotlight for me is the Tricholoma caligatum, the false matsutake. And if somebody goes right now, you can find a lot of them. And they are a lot of people who go in for actual matsutake think that is the actual matsutake, whatever's white matsutake. No, it's a false Tricholoma and false matsutake. And you can find them very much the same way you find the true matsutake. You have the covered mushroom completely covered with veil and everything else, and pointed top and everything else. It smells slightly reddishy, but not as much as matsutake. The difference between this one and the actual matsutake, it is a very, very white mushroom. The matsutake, true matsutake, and when you open it, everything is white. It's only like tops is a little bit brown. But this one is edible, and some people say it's bitter, but I will say it's not as bitter. It depends on the taste, and they will start as small as this much, like very tiny, tiny ones. It's like an inch long. You kind of like think it's like, what is that? It's not even a mushroom. It's something small. Then it grows bigger, and it grows even bigger. Here's like, I had all kind of different ones last weekend, and I had fun. Here's the ones that it starts opening, and that's also, you can see, I was like, start showing the gills, and it's bright white gills. Here's a larger one, and you need to remember this is a sheath in its pointed cap, and you also, as a true matsutake, have a gray color root. This is kind of like very important to remember that true matsutake have it as well. Here's another, starts opening, and it's very, very white mushroom inside, and you can always peel the skin off. It's very much easily peeled. I'm trying to show you, and become extremely white mushroom underneath. And if you peel everything, it's white. And it will grow as big as this, or can grow as big as this. For a difference is like, the true matsutake can grow twice as big as that much. It's like, if you kind of think about it, it's like that bigger. And the stems will be as this thick. The caligatum can grow only like literally an inch wide at the stipe or stem. And when it get older, the cheese is getting attached so much that you cannot pull it off altogether. It's rarely infected with the bugs, but you can have, it's kind of become decaying and smells pretty bad. But you will see a lot of tiniest bugs inside in the gills, and the gills turn brown. And it's like truly brown, but maybe like beigey brown. And that it smells like rotten flesh. And again, is like if you're trying to find the Matsutake, this is not the time. The true Matsutake you start finding after first, when you hit 28 to 29 degrees, then it's a true Matsutake will come up. The Caligatum comes when it's a first frost, means you get the temperature up to the 34 to 32 degrees, then they will pop up. They don't come up earlier than the first frost. It's like, you need to remember that this needs to be drastic temp drop to see them. Otherwise, this is a new mushroom. You can find it in the forest. They're very cool mushrooms when you find them, and you can find a whole plantation of them, and they will be gone in a week or so. And that's about it. Thank you. Kathy, back to you.
Here's one that we see quite often this time of year. This is a purple-gilled Laccaria, not Lactarius, but Laccaria. And you'll find them. They're a tan-colored mushroom with quite striking, beautiful purple gills. And they are considered to be edible. They're not a poisonous mushroom, but they're not considered to be a real choice mushroom. The stems are quite tough, so you generally, I'm told that people eat the caps, and usually the smaller ones, and stuff like that. But it's a real, quite an easy one to identify just because of the striking purple gills, and the rest of it is tan, unlike we have a Cortinarius here. That's a purple Cortinarius. And you can see here how this has purple. They're starting to turn brown, but initially they have purple gills. But they also have a purplish stem as well. And they're going to have a brown spore print. And you can see this one, the spores are starting to mature. And so you're getting the brown spores.
You can kind of see where the cortina was.
Ah, okay. So this is a different Cortinarius. And you can see on the stem, you can see where we're getting some of that spore print on the stem here where it's brown. And then you also can see kind of what they call a cortina, which is like a webbing. When they're very young before they open up, they don't have a veil like some of these other mushrooms. It's more like, looks like spider webs almost, covering the gills when they're young. So that's a real. So
The benefit of beginners. Don't eat cords would be a good.
Yeah.
Yes, there's only that absolutely the case that you generally don't want to eat the Cortinarius. There is one Cortinarius that is a choice edible that we have around here, and that's the gypsy mushroom. And that's but I kind of have trouble identifying that.
So the first one that you had, does that have white spoken?
Yes. The Lacarius is white spore. Yeah, it's very light. It's a light spore print rather than the Cortinarius is going to be a real
noticeable brown. We've got another fun mushroom here that this is a lactarius, and this is the indigo milk cap. And the top, yeah, kind of brownish, but when we open it up, it's blue inside. Now, this one's a little bit old, and as you can see, it's got kind of fair bit of bug damage, but this is not a mushroom that stains blue. This is a mushroom that is blue inside. So when you open it up, it doesn't so much change color as when you cut it open, it's going to be blue inside. So that's kind of an interesting, fun mushroom. And this one, like I say, is a little bug damaged and old, but you can see some of the blue color. They can be quite striking if you find a young, fresh one. They're totally blue inside. Very, very cool.
Thank you all for joining tonight. Thanks for sharing pictures and questions. Once everyone kind of starts to mingle around here, it gets a little too hard to hear anything. So, yeah, thank you again, and we will see you in 1 month. Thanks a lot.